Help us keep the Product Porch lights on by giving at patreon.com/theproductporch. Please review the podcast on your favorite platform. Your reviews help new listeners discover us. Thanks. Well, if you look at the automation age, as more and more automation came, less and less jobs required to do the same thing. And what it does is it creates this situation where it kind of creates a divide. And that's where you saw the middle class shrink. It's analogous to what's happening in AI right now.
Welcome to the Product Porch with Joe Gali, Todd Blacquier, and me, Ryan Cantwell. AI is hitting the product job market hard. What lessons can we take from factory workers who survived the robot takeover? Now settle in, folks, because on the Product Porch, every topic is a product topic.
Gentlemen, it's been a while. How the heck are you guys doing?
I am doing well. I am so glad to see Ryan has color in his face again.
Yes, I am among the land of the living. So, guys, I'm happy to be here. The last 2 weeks for me have been a nightmare. I have gone through one of the most uncertain health kind of situations of my life. It's been a very unique, kind of strange thing that resulted in 5 days and 6 nights in the hospital, an emergency surgery, the identification of a birth defect that needed to be removed. On a positive note, everything's going to be fine. So there's no lasting health effect or anything from this. But guys, I want to take this opportunity because I don't talk about it a lot, just to mention it. But through my entire life, I've struggled with a particular and very rare syndrome. It's called cyclic vomiting syndrome. It just exponentially kind of made everything worse throughout this whole period. So for anybody listening, if you're familiar with cyclic vomiting, my heart is with you. If you're unfamiliar with it, I'd encourage you to maybe look it up because it's kind of silent. Lots of people don't talk about it. But those that struggle with it, especially the families that support those that struggle with it, it can be a road. So yeah, I am excited to get back on the porch with you guys though. So I couldn't tell you how nice it is to see both of your faces and get to chat with you. What have you been thinking about? Like, what's on your mind?
You know, it's been an interesting couple weeks. There's just a lot of chaos in the tech space right now. AI, DeepSeek, every day there's something in the news. I've spent a big chunk of my career implementing, researching productivity tools for product managers, like a Craft.io or an Aha or whatever. And the promise that comes with these tools, become more productive, save on meetings. It got me thinking, this is like another phase in our careers, right? Like all of us went through the email stage and the productivity increases that came with electronic messaging and email. And then we dealt with mobile, the growth of the smartphone and accessibility and being able to access your email on your phone. And it promised corporations and it promised people, no matter what industry you're in, you know, the increase in productivity, you know, the instant reaction, staying on top of things. But I think about the promise of AI and are we dealing with another phase? Is this just another round of productivity promise that's really not delivering productivity, but more about increasing the expectations of the product leader, the product manager? Are we really getting that value that we're talking about? Like, what do you guys think?
I love the way you pose that question and mentioning productivity. Are we seeing the productivity increases that we expect? I'd love to dig into productivity increases and who they benefit. I think we should have that discussion. And I love the example of email. So I recently read this study by PMC. This is PubMed Central in the National Library of Medicine. And they did a study, and what they found was that since the introduction of email, it has made communication faster. So that's fantastic, right? It's increasing productivity in that we're communicating faster and back and forth. But it comes with it an increased workload and response expectation. So the idea is, hey, now that we have email, we should be able to respond quicker. We should be able to do more. We're expecting more of our staff. What's so funny, Ryan?
No, because it hasn't changed.
No.
Productivity. It's just changed what we spend our time on. Like what we're busy with has changed.
Well, it's changed our expectations. It's changed people's expectations. It's immediate gratification. If you don't hear from someone right away, then something's wrong. They're ignoring you, right? Then they're a slacker.
I mean, so that's the line of expectation, Joe. I think what you're referring to is the line of expectation. The line of expectation has changed. There is a delta there. What I also believe has changed is email hasn't said, wow, look how much time I'm saving writing memos. I can now leave the office at 3:00. Instead, it means instead of writing 10 memos a day, you are now doing 50. And you're spending more time responding than kind of digesting, synthesizing, giving thought to what those responses are. There's more emphasis placed on snappy reply than the actual content that may have gone within it. That might be a little controversial. I'm interested in your guys' take on that.
Well, I mean, let's go back, bring it back to the expectations of the product manager with these different tools that have been out there, right? And I think we can even take the modern day version of email, Slack or Teams, right? It's the same thing, right? Where you're expecting immediate responses, your immediate reaction, engagement, right? Maybe we don't have time to think about something because someone's expecting us to respond. We're seeing this, it's the same evolution or the same situation. It's now AI. It's like the expectation of the product manager is changing, right? Are we really getting more done? Maybe, but are we saving time? I don't know if that's really the benefit. And like to Todd's point, who's really getting the benefit? It's not really the product manager. It's the business. It's the business owner who can hire fewer people to get more done, right? Or am I going too far with that, Todd? What do you think?
I think there's a few themes that we should take from this, right? One, we should look at who's benefiting. The other thing I think we should think about, to Ryan's point, is what's the trade-offs? What are the impact? So first off, is there a productivity increase? Is there more time efficiency? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. If so, just like we would look at something as a product manager to make a decision if it's worth an investment, what's the trade-off? What's on the other side? That's what I found interesting about that study that I read, Keeping Up with Work Email After Hours study, is it talked about that as those expectations change. Hey, we're going to be always on, that always on culture that we see all over the place now. Some of the things they found was it was negatively related to psychological detachment, meaning they weren't able to detach from work. They found that they had emotional exhaustion. There was more emotional exhaustion. Anyway, so there's all these like negative stressors and emotional impact that comes with it. And to Ryan's point, we could argue that the productivity improvements that go along with it are minimal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in that camp. The argument of the productivity improvements are minimal. I think it's a little bit of a productivity paradox. More efficiency, more expectations every time. And while we might be saving time on doing things like writing documents, creating your roadmap, analyzing data, we're now expected to handle even more responsibilities as a result, because these things, well, they make you go faster, so therefore cram more in. So are we asking the right question of like, how can we do these things faster all the time? Is it, or should we be saying, is this the right thing to do at all?
So I want to jump into that and give you an example from my career. So early on, a couple of years into being at the LA Times. Do you guys remember that scene from the Facebook movie? What was it called?
Social Network.
Social Network. That scene where Justin Timberlake's character is supposed to be the Napster guy.
Yep.
And he says something to the effect of, $1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool? $1 billion. Do you remember that? Anyway,
Yes.
So cheeseball. It's so like bro. Tech
Sean
bro.
Parker. He was playing Sean Parker from Napster.
Tech bro nonsense. Well, after I've been at the LA Times a couple of years, we got a new, I can't even remember his title. He had some chief title in the digital space. And so he was challenging us to get more out of video. He wanted to see video revenue increase. And by the way, video revenue since I was there had already increased by over 13x in a couple of years. But what was funny is he just saw this opportunity to get more out of it. And his thought was the way we're going to get more out of it is more volume. Let's just get video everywhere on every page and everything. And so he challenged our production team to come up with the cheapest we can make a video and the fastest. And we went through it, and I worked with my executive producers, and we came back, and I think the estimate we gave him was something like, we think we can get this down to $500 a video or something like that, I think. And his line was to us, $500 is fine. You know what would be really great? $50. Okay, bro. $50 a video. Got it. Cool. And that set us off on our journey, right? That was setting the outcome. That's what we need to achieve now. We went out. We found technology at this time that could produce videos on the cheap very, very fast. And we built a whole team around it. We created some jobs. They worked chugging out all this garbage video that they didn't feel good about, and neither did anyone who saw it. Cut to the chase, at the end of the story is eventually that entire group, everyone in that umbrella was let go. Everyone that was part of that was let go. Because, Ryan, they didn't take the time to ask that question. Why? But should we do this? Is this the right outcome? Is $50 video the right outcome? Is walls and walls of video the right outcome?
But I want to go back to how we even got here. You talk about wanting to accelerate video content at the LA Times. How does that tie back to the question we're asking around the value?
Love it. Great push, Joe. Let me tie it back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share another study here, and I'm going to share a stat with you.
Okay.
It goes along with it. Here's how it ties back. Right. The thought is, are we making things more efficient? Actually, kind of. We were producing something like 10 videos a day or something. It was insane. So yeah, we were producing a lot more. The quality, we could talk. It wasn't that great. And you know what it increased? It increased the workload of the team. It increased their stress. It increased their cognitive load. You know why? Thinking about how a topic for a video in a day is one thing. Thinking about 5, that's a completely different ball of wax. So the cognitive load went way up. The manual load went down, but the cognitive load went up.
And Todd, I just have to say, as cognitive load goes up, creativity goes down. You don't have an opportunity to, like, you're sacrificing critical thinking, like finding subtlety and nuance and new creative ideas that are going to truly move forward, not trying to just do more, but those moments of breath where you are you're kind of wrestling with big questions. Todd, you were talking about questions earlier, right? Like when you're wrestling with those questions are important, in my opinion.
So let's get back. Let's bring it back to AI then. And I'm going to share this stat from Forbes. And I want to get your reaction to this. Like, how could this be true, and why might this be true? So in the study, it's a study done by Forbes in July of 2024. And I know in the AI world, that was 6 months ago. That could be forever ago, right?
Yeah.
Things move fast. Yep. But this study at the time found that 77% of employees using AI tools said they experienced an increase in their workload. So we're talking about productivity and efficiency, right? But they say now using AI tools, they feel their workload has increased. They spent more time reviewing and moderating AI-generated content. They spent more time learning. 71% said they were burned out. 65% said they struggled with the productivity demands of their employer. Now, this is specifically talking about employees using AI tools.
Right.
So my challenge to you is, how could any of that be true?
Well, no, go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
I was going to say, because in order to get the quality you need, AI needs a lot of care. Like, you are now an overseer. You're a director of AIs and its workflows and its outputs, and you're trying to feed it. It doesn't just simply think for you. you need to do a lot of thinking in order to get the quality out of it that produces good work. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, you're now a reviewer as opposed to your brain goes from creativity to you want to make sure that you want to make sure that whatever you're producing isn't a hallucination or isn't bad data. Like that's the panic that's the result of having to spend all your time reviewing what comes out of an AI tool, right?
And this brings me to one of my biggest pet peeves. As someone, I use AI every day. Today is a holiday. We don't have to work. I use AI today. I use it every day. And there is nothing that annoys me more than when I see output that is obviously generated by just horrible prompts. Yep. It's just like a sentence with a question mark at the end, and boom, we got it. We got a thing. I have found personally in my application of AI, so when I want to do an analysis or I want to create some report, I want to create some kind of guide or something that I find that what I have to do is provide a ton of context. Yeah, context builds over time, which is great, but I at least have to ask it questions. And sometimes it will get it wrong. I'll ask it questions. Do you remember who our persona is? And it will say something. And I'm like, no, that's not right. This is right. I have to tell it. But I have to give it all this kind of context. And then I have to have it challenge me, ask me questions as if it was an intern. What do you need to know before you finish this task? I'm sure I didn't tell you everything. It will ask me questions I wouldn't have thought to answer. Then I got to work on answering all those questions. Then I can now start getting its first pass, and I have to model it from there. I can tell by looking at a document when it was one prompt generated copy paste, because it just misses the nuance. It's missing certain details and nuance. It doesn't connect directly to the context of whatever it is we're discussing. It's a big pet peeve of mine.
Well, it goes back to all of us in our careers have dealt with interns, and the argument has been sometimes, I think I'm actually better without one because it slows having them slow me down. Like I think we've all run into that at some point in our careers where we're like, yeah, it sounds nice to have someone to help us out. But the reality is we have to double check the work. We have to ask it questions. We have to do the trust but verify method. And in reality, you have to do a lot of TLC. Like there's a sacrifice that comes with upskilling that individual. And I think, Todd, like what I heard you say, it's kind of in that same vein with AI. It's like you have to have the belt and suspenders approach. You can't just I think a lot of people are treating it like it's just this. It's like the genie from the Flintstones. Is it the little green man? You know what I'm talking about?
The little green man?
Was it Kazoo? Was that his name? I can't remember.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was like Kazoo. It was like just pops up, or like I have Barbara Eden in my little genie. That's my I dream of genie, by the way. That's Barbara Eden. But I think that's the point, right? Is people underestimate the extra work that goes in to make AI be productive. It gets underappreciated.
But it's the smartest intern that I've ever had. It's the most knowledgeable intern, the fastest intern that I've ever had.
So let's continue to bring it back, right? The reality is it's a scary time to be a product manager because there's a lot of contraction in the marketplace.
Correct.
A lot of organizations are cutting the product manager role. And it depends on the organization, maybe more the product owner role, but the one that writes the user stories or writes the epics, people are getting squeezed. Right?
All right, Joe, do you remember the text I sent you before we started this podcast?
Yes. It was something around the fact of, guys, I'm getting really depressed as I do more research into this topic. But after listening to Todd before we started recording, I'm now slightly into that depression. Todd, maybe just tell the audience, what was it that you found as you did some more research?
Let's do this, okay? If you're watching The Muppet Christmas Carol, you get to that point where it's the third ghost and Gonzo and Rizzo go away because they know it's getting a little spooky for a minute.
Yep.
But they come back for the happy ending.
Yep.
Okay. We're gonna come back. We'll still have it. This is this is the scary scene with the spooky
I like the
ghost at
Disney
the end.
version better, but that's okay. Keep on going. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
No, the Muppet
Disney
Christmas
version's
Carol
way better.
wins, Joe.
come on.
Oh
The
my
Disney
goodness,
version,
it's
stop.
not even
Stop.
close.
Disney version's way better. Anyway,
I mean, this you go ghost by ghost. I mean, first off, like the Ghost of Christmas Future, way more frightening in the Muppets
For
Christmas
sure.
Carol than using that dog, whatever the dog's name is again. Anyway, there's just 2 against 1, so we can't rightly have this battle. It's just not fair.
I'm getting
But later, when it's you and me, we'll just box it out and
That's fine. That's fine.
get to a conclusion. So what we're gonna have. Well, let's get back to some sunshine and rainbows at the end. But for now, Ryan used the term productivity paradox. So the term productivity paradox was coined by Eric Brynjolfsson. Maybe that's the right way to say it. Anyway, it's in the 90s, came with this term, and he's a professor, a researcher. And what he's looking into is historically, when productivity increased, so did jobs and so did wages. Fantastic. More productivity, more jobs, median wage goes up. Great for everyone. Since the 1970s, the US worker productivity has increased 253%. By the way, maybe that's the answer to your question right now, Joe. To date, has productivity increased? Yeah, it has. These technological advancements have increased it. AI, yeah, it'll probably push that further. 253%. But inflation-adjusted median wages only grew by 117%. That's according to the Economic Policy Institute. What has happened here? Well, if you look at the automation age, right, as more and more automation came, less and less jobs required to do the same thing. That's that contraction you're referring to, Joe. And what it does is it creates this situation where it kind of creates a divide. And that's where you saw the middle class shrinking. And your choice is to move up level to higher skilled jobs or to fall back to a lower skilled job so that you can continue working. Those are your options as those jobs in the middle disappear. So why am I saying that? That's the automation age, right? Great. Factories are faster. Fantastic. How does it affect us? That's exactly, it's analogous to what's happening in AI right now and happening in the office space. The space where we thought we were too skilled. We all have our master's degrees, right? Some of us have worked at some highly funded tech company or in Silicon Valley. So, I mean, we're safe. We're not. We're seeing that same contraction and we're seeing that same divide happen. The only difference is, and why it's scary, there's not a fallback. There's not a lower skilled job to fall back to. You either have to be in the upskill arena where there's less jobs. You have to fight for one of those jobs that are remaining, or you got to leave. You got to shift entirely. I think what we really want to talk about is, what do we learn from the automation era? What do we learn from what happened there? And how does that affect us going forward? Going back to the first question, one of the questions we started with early on, who is benefiting from this divide? Productivity is going up. Employment's not going to go up. Wages are not going to go up. If that's what people are expecting, they're crazy. The productivity paradox tells us that's not going to happen. So who is benefiting? And what can we learn from the automation era?
I mean, Ryan, you said it, right? Who's benefiting from it?
The people at the top.
Shareholders.
Right.
Right? They're getting more bang for their buck because they're what's the highest expense for all corporations? Labor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are there massive layoffs? It's how you cut the bottom line. It's how you make yourself attractive to be sold. It's the fastest way to generate profit. You cut labor.
Investors, executives, owners.
So, all right. So now my stomach is churning, Todd, as we think about this, as we talk about this topic. Is it too early in the podcast to ask? Because like someone listening to this, they're probably saying, well, what are we going to do about it? What should we do about it?
So that's a great question, Joe. I think what we can do is look back again at the automation age, right? So there was a lot of job displacement then. We expect there to be even more widespread job displacement today. There's that divide that happened, and workers found themselves on the other side of the divide. How do they do that? And what can we learn from them? So first off, I'm just going to say some of it is positioning. Some of it is timing, right place, right time, right company, right position, right relationships. There's that. But let's ignore that. Those are external factors. So internal factors, what can we learn from what they did?
I mean, I think what my understanding is, just based on the history of the worker, is that increased the number of people going back to college, or people going to college, or the expectation of people getting another degree, or increasing your knowledge. Like, I think that's how a lot of universities grew, is because people realized that the jobs that they needed, or the jobs that were in demand, required a higher level of education, additional training. And, it may not necessarily be a degree. It may be like a trade, or just people have to upskill, or they have to find where they can differentiate and set themselves apart.
I love it. I made a list of 6. I'm just going to read my list.
Yeah, let's see it.
And then I want y'all to react to it and tell me, okay, how does a product manager apply this?
Okay.
So here's what they did. And you hit 1. Number 4 I had on there's a reactive and proactive. Number 4 was they showed willingness to adapt and learn. Here's a few other things that they did. They became the go-to person for the new technology. That's a proactive thing. So they built a reputation at their companies. I'm the person that knows this. There's a great example of that. Have you seen that movie Hidden Figures?
Of course.
Yeah.
And that one woman sneaks in to learn how to use the computer.
Right.
And she becomes the go-to person for making the computer work.
Great reference.
It's a genius, right? So that's something that you saw a lot in the automation age and advancements. Number 2, they took on process optimization roles.
Ooh.
So rather than just doing tasks, they look for how do I optimize a process and become an expert for optimization of a process. They shifted from task doers to problem solvers. So less about I do this thing and more to I solve problems that occur. They built relationships with decision makers. That's something they did. They built those relationships. And they avoided the victim mentality. And instead, they took control of their careers. Takeaways from those 6. I'd love to hear you guys respond to those.
So my takeaway, what I'm hearing is you have opportunity to try to put yourself in certain positions to make yourself valued as the go-to person for certain things. And I also see an overload. I just want to acknowledge this. An overload is if you go online right now, you can like punch your keyboard and the first search result is going to be learn AI now. Like it could be, it could be anything. And that's what will come up. I'm reluctant to say like, go take every AI course. And well, I think it's more practical than that. I would encourage people just start trying things out.
Correct.
Like, let's just do it and see what happens. Go play. Have some fun. If you're having fun doing it, people are going to notice. And if people notice, you're going to add value.
You got to do something. You can't just sit by. You've got to go learn it, test it, play with it. And I really like what Todd said, like anything that he does new with AI, especially the prototyping, and we talked about this, he's trying it out in his own sandbox. He's getting comfortable with it. I think that's probably the advice I'd give somebody in this space where they're seeing the contraction and they're like, okay, what do I do? It's not doom and gloom. No, go become the go-to person. At my organization right now, there's a couple of people that are like the go-to for Gen AI, and I bet their jobs are safe.
Don't just simply look at it as a series of check boxes. Like they want me to learn AI. I'm going to go learn AI. I'm going to go complete the list. Instead, ask the questions of what is AI going to do for us?
Correct.
What would it do for our customers? If you can think about how that applies and how you can apply your superpowers to answer those questions aided by, not or maybe enabled by these new tools and everything else, you're going to be in a better position.
Well, this is where, it's that second one I had. They took on process optimization rules. Look at it, start solving some problems today.
Yeah.
One of the biggest mistakes we have, and I love what you said, Ryan, about not having to take all the courses. Don't go do that. Just don't. I mean, I'm not saying don't take courses or don't learn what AI is, how it works. No, do those. That's fine. That's fine. My point is, don't over-index on that.
Yes.
Take a problem and go solve it.
Right.
Going back to productivity paradox. He talks about the J curve, that whenever you get a new technology, productivity goes way down before it goes up, right? Because you don't have the models in place. You don't have the ways of working. You don't have the processes. You need those to effectively apply any new technology. Now's the time. Companies don't know what they're doing and how to do it. Roles are going to shift. And I'm sorry if this scares people, but roles are going to shift. Those responsibilities are going to change. We may even have title changes. Whole roles will be different. The way the processes around them are going to change. We're going to need to build some processes and frameworks that aren't in place. Well, why can't you be the architect of that? Why can't any of us at our company be the one that says, hey, I have found a new way of working, leveraging AI this way. I've created a new workflow. I've created a new process, and this is how it works. And I found that it's had this effect and this impact. Be the architect of that.
Guys, and this leads me to a point I want to make. Don't also look at it as finding the flavor of the day tool, because the more tools you have, the more decisions you and your peers need to make. And the more decisions you make, the perhaps the worst outcomes result. So I would encourage everybody here, sometimes the best way to save time or be more productive isn't to use a new tool, is to remove an existing one. Like, look for opportunities to cull.
I think it's more than just a tool. You need to cut something out. Replace something you used to do. Replace some energy. Because the problem is we continue to add. Yeah. And that's actually one of the worst, I think. This is just Todd's feeling. This is Todd's feeling.
He's using his hands. For those who, there's no video here, but Todd's using his hands very aggressively right now.
These are Todd's feelings that AI is just going to create a higher cognitive load. And I think I have good reason to believe that. Because as you take something out of your schedule, so we have this hour, and now we've made it more efficient. That hour is gone. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to let you get off an hour earlier from work. No. We're going to fill that with two other things now, which are more decisions you have to make, which are new contexts. There's a great study by University of California that showed on average it takes 23 minutes to refocus after switching tasks. So there's a loss of productivity right there every time you switch. But it increases that cognitive load as well. If we're going to take a role and we're going to expand that role to have more oversight over all these AI agents and therefore have more decisions to make, that cognitive load is going to go way high.
That's going to be there's got to be an impact, a long-term impact on mental wellness, because you bring that stress home.
Yeah, I got to tell you, right before I started my own business, the last thing I was doing was I was fueling tanks at a rock yard. I used to do my own budget while doing that. That's how easy it was mentally. Physically exhausting. I had some nice muscles in the arm though, so that was great. Physically exhausting, mentally, piece of cake. So I went from that to launching my own business where I had 1,000 questions I needed to answer in any given day. And I got to tell you, I was way more exhausted in that second job from the first one, because that cognitive load is way more exhausting than physical load.
Yeah.
And that's where to Ryan's point about cutting something out, we're going to have to figure out how do we cut some things out. And I think cognitively, we got to think about what we're going to cut out.
Well, not only that, I mean, say you do it, you just become a manager of tools instead of a manager of products, right?
Ooh. Yeah, actually, where my mind went with, I have 2 teenage daughters. I'm thinking about all the technology that they keep on getting introduced to. It just creates more context switching. Like I'm beginning to understand now why, why it's important to have restrictions on technology at a young age and trying to reduce the amount of waiting until you do introduce it, limits. Like I think what we're talking about is not just for product managers. I think it's just in general.
The other point I want to make there to what Ryan said was, if you're just using AI to record things, like to automate things, you're using it wrong. It should be a force multiplier for your abilities.
Yeah.
You got to use it to take your human abilities and your skills and amplify them.
We need to be more focused. We need to be better communicators. We need to be better at asking questions. Those are things that AI can never, I don't know if I can say never. I don't think AI is there yet. And I think that's still where the product manager can provide a lot of value.
No, I want to bring it back to your first question and just ask it and see what we think now. These advancements in AI, are they creating more productivity or are they just increasing expectations?
I don't think it's as black and white as that. I would say we need to be asking the question of, are they helping us make better decisions? And if the answer is no, then we're just, all they're doing is helping us move faster and shift our cognitive load into different places and on things that we have to ask. Does that really matter?
So you're breaking the question.
I'm breaking the question.
You're breaking it and saying we shouldn't be asking that. What we should be asking is it helping us make the right decisions? What's your answer, Joe?
I think it's increasing expectations. I don't think it's increasing efficiency. I think it's just increasing expectations and creating additional work. And you know what? People aren't going to fight it right now. Organizations have the power. But it's just going back to the question, is it saving time? It's not saving time. It's just creating a higher level of expectation from shareholders, investors, and leadership. And that, if it has to be a black or white answer, that's the black or white answer I'm going to give.
I love it. So I would say yes and yes, but the yes depends on who. So productivity, it's on an upward trend. I think it's going to continue to go upward. We're going to see productivity measured at scale, at volume, like across the entire industry, all of industries. AI is going to improve and increase productivity. I think that's going to happen. Now, if we look at the individual, this is where I have a disagreement because I think there's a fallacy here in our thinking. We look at it the same way as creating widgets in a factory line. The faster the factory is, the more things that we can put it throughput, we can create more throughput, more units. But when we're talking about AI, the primary throughput, the output is cognitive. And because of that, that's where I disagree. I think we have a finite human cognitive load.
Yep.
That's where I say there's I don't know where the cliff is, and it probably depends on the individual, but there's a cliff. We don't have endless amounts of cognitive productivity. But to Ryan's point, they don't care. That's not the question they're asking. They don't care about your cognitive load and throughput. Right. Sorry, everybody. That's not what we care about. We care about that massive productivity line at the top, and that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so then the question we have to ask ourselves for the individual is, how do I make sure I'm on the right side of this divide?
Yeah.
There's going to be a fissure here, and you're going to have to decide which side of this divide I'm going to be on.
Yep. I could not agree with you more. So, key takeaways. I'll go first. I really like the shift from being a task doer to problem solver, because that just resonates with me. There's still the real human, like understanding what's the need, what's the barrier, what's getting in the way, having the conversation, having empathy. You still need those individuals. How do you lean into that? How do you demonstrate? You get stuff done. You solve problems. You provide outcomes. Like that gives me hope. I think that should give our product managers or product professionals out there hope. Is like, those of you who are really good at your job, just continue to lean in that problem solver lane.
And Todd, it was kind of what's sticking with me is what you were just saying, is how do you find yourself on the right side of the divide? There's no one answer. There's no shortcut. There's no magic wand that can be waved. It's really just trying to be aware, make sure you have the knowledge, and put yourself in positions where opportunities can present themselves, and it's up to you to capitalize on them.
You know what, my key takeaways, this is something I've worried about for a long time. B2B businesses are constantly selling me on, I'm going to get time back. I'm sure I've had so many salesmen tell me that in a meeting. And one of my big takeaways from this conversation is that's BS, and I need to not worry about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the key message isn't true, and it's irrelevant. So stop worrying, Todd. No one's going to give you time back. You're not going to stop working 50 hours a week and suddenly it's going to be 30 because of some new tool. Right. AI is not going to mean a shorter work week for you. That's one of my key takeaways. It's like, let that go.
AI is not going to give us a 30-hour work week. That would be phenomenal. What can you imagine? Gentlemen, okay, let's go back at the very, very beginning. Ryan, I'm so glad you're back on the porch.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm glad you were able to survive the last hour with us. I was just waiting for Ryan just to like lean over and be like, where's Ryan? Oh, he's taking a nap now. Okay, we'll catch him in another half hour.
He made it.
Ryan, it's late at night. You survived, so this is a good sign. I'm sure. Hopefully, you can make it back upstairs.
I'm glad Ryan's here too. Good to see you too, Joe.
Thank you.
I do feel a little bit better. The knot in my stomach is gone. So thank you, Todd. By the way, no pun to Ryan.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Take it easy, guys. Be safe out there.
Thank you for joining us on the Product Porch. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can also find us on LinkedIn for more content. We offer a special thank you to AJ and Jack Block here for the music. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this podcast are their own and do not represent nor necessarily reflect those of their employer.